Tonight, the new series True Life Crime investigates the most harrowing mysteries rocking headlines and social feeds. Young lives gone too soon. Their deaths were shocking, and haunting questions remain. I'm True Life Crime UK correspondent Linda Ade, and I'm here to join the dots and expose the truth. Jodie Wilkinson, murdered in broad daylight.
And you could tell by her voice she knew she was dying.
In a busy city centre.
A young woman fatally assaulted amongst kids coming to and from school.
But behind a wall of silence.
They wouldn't come forward because they were scared. If I was scared, I wouldn't care. That's someone's life, man.
Did her checkered past catch up with her?
That kind of level of intimidation, it would have been really quite difficult for her to avoid.
Or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong time?
I don't know why anyone would want to kill Jodie.
Newcastle upon Tyne, a city of around 300,000 on the coast in the northeast of England. It has a vibrant centre, which draws thousands every weekend for its bars, restaurants and nightlife. But on October 17th, 2016, it was a scene of something far more sinister. Only half a mile from Newcastle's party centre, 27-year-old Jodie Wilkinson was murdered in public at 3:30 in the afternoon.
When I first heard about the case, I was confused at the lack of publicity. When a woman is stabbed to death in a busy area, you'd expect it to make national headlines. But outside of the northeast of England, there was virtually no coverage. It's almost as mysterious as the killing itself.
5 years on, the case is unsolved. The killer remains on the loose, and Jodie's family and friends seek justice to go alongside the memories.
She was really funny, like, she used to always make the kids laugh and stuff. She would have been a wicked parent.
She was charismatic. People enjoyed her. People enjoyed her banter.
Jodie would inspire other young people, mainly through her honesty, you know, by leading by example. She was going into schools as a peer educator and inspiring by just being herself.
I think the biggest thing I regret is not being able to tell her how much that she meant to us, because she was just so special. So special.
What happened in central Newcastle that October afternoon, which led to Jodie's murder? I'm meeting former lead investigator, Detective Chief Inspector Andy Fairland. He retired in 2020, but this case is still one he hopes to see solved.
Hi, Andy, you all right?
Yes, thanks.
I'm trying to get my head around the early parts of the investigation. Could we drive around the scene at all?
Of course, no problem.
So at which point on Stanhope Street was Jodie actually stabbed?
If you pull in here on the left, I'll point out to you
Just here.
the grassed area immediately adjacent to the bus stop with the railings in front was where Jodie was fatally stabbed.
It's just so open. It is really busy, and that's one thing that's really shocked me.
It was 3:30 in the afternoon, and there was people taking their kids away from school, they were going to the local shops. It's a relatively busy area.
Who called 999?
There were multiple calls, one of which was from Jodie herself, saying...
Jodie called the police herself?
Yes.
Did she say anything about who had stabbed her?
No. Very quickly, her injuries overtook her and she was unable to talk.
Within minutes of Jodie's 999 call, officers were on the scene.
The initial police officers were quickly informed that there'd been some form of incident going on prior to Jodie's injuries. There was an individual running up the street with weapons, Jodie being somehow caught up in that.
Most women who are killed are murdered by an ex or current partner. Did you ever think this could have been a possibility?
We weren't ruling anything out at this point.
I need to dig deeper into Jodie's background and past relationships. So I've made contact with her younger sister, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
With just 2 years between them, they were as close as could be.
Can you tell me what Jodie was like?
Yeah, Jodie was a very confident young woman, very popular. She didn't really have no fear or shyness around people. She was just such a warm soul. If she had £1 and it was her last she'd give you it, she would do anything for anyone.
It really comes across the way you speak about her.
Good.
Yeah. How did you find out what happened to Jodie?
A knock at the door. It was the police came in and said there's been an incident and we're afraid that she's passed away in hospital. Just total shock that can happen to you. You would never think it's ever going to impact you or someone that you love.
Did you think there was a chance that it could be anything to do with like an ex-partner?
I didn't. They told us men were involved, so I didn't think that because Jodie was gay, quite openly as well.
Okay.
I've met quite a few of Jodie's partners and I certainly never picked up on anything like that.
Was there anything in her past that could explain how she got caught up in such an attack?
Jodie certainly didn't live a sheltered life. We adopted when we were quite young. It was great at first, you know, and then things went a bit downhill. We didn't get affection or love, really. It was a hard childhood for Jodie. She left home at 15 and went into a youth hostel, and sometimes she used to get kicked out of these hostels, so she would live on the streets.
She was living on the street?
Yeah, slept rough quite a lot. So I worried about her.
Was Jodie rough sleeping at the point that she was killed?
She wasn't rough sleeping, as in on the streets, but she was technically homeless, as in she was living in temporary accommodation, mixing about with, you know, different types of people with different issues. But I would never imagine that she would have been murdered.
Could homelessness have played a part in Jodie's death? For the 250,000 people in the UK without a permanent roof over their heads, life is certainly dangerous.
Is anybody, a woman or a man, living on the streets, you'd be an increased risk of any kind of violence, including sexual violence.
From my research, people sleeping rough in the UK are almost 17 times more likely to be victims of violence than the rest of us. It's horrific. Even more so when you see the faces behind those statistics. Kelsey's been homeless for 2 years, sleeping on Newcastle streets, just as Jodie did.
Do you say that being a woman outside makes you more vulnerable?
Yeah, I've been threatened to be stabbed, peed on, I've had stuff chucked on us, I've been stamped on. About a week and a half ago, I was asleep. The one was kicking us. I was like, oh man. They went, what you got? What you got? I went, what you on about? I went, shit, it's a lass. And they ran.
Oh my God. What did you hear about Jodie? Do you know much about what happened to Jodie?
Not much, and I wouldn't want to say anything wrong.
Knowing what you know about Jodie being killed out on the streets and then coming to live on the streets yourself.
I absolutely petrified.
You were petrified?
Yes. I hate it.
Do you?
I hate it.
Talking to Kelsey has made me think about Jodie and what she might have experienced being out here. It is really alarming.
Jodie spent a decade on and off the streets. Did she meet her killer during that time? Or was it a chance encounter on the day? I've arranged to meet her friend Donna, who'd known her since they were both teenagers.
Donna, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today. What was Jodie like?
It was like having a sister. Like a sister, like, obviously, I never had.
Do you have favourite memories that you could share
It was
of
my
Jodie?
21st birthday. I got these firework candle things. And I hid it in the bush, and like the bush went on fire a little bit, not much. And she kind of leaped the fence in slow motion, shouting, there's a fire, but that was, like, it wasn't even a pot of fire. It was just hilarious.
That sounds mad.
It was crazy.
Could you ever relate to, like, Jodie's experiences of homelessness and, like,
Yeah.
sleeping rough?
When I was about 19, I sleep on the streets. At Gateshead Metro Station. Under a box. And I had no money for any hotel or anywhere to go. And obviously Jodie couldn't let me stay in her room because she was in a hostel. And she said she was going to stay on the streets with us, and I told her no.
She wanted to stay on the streets with you.
I said no, I'd be okay.
Says a lot about who she was as a person.
Donna not only knew Jodie, But some of the people she hung with as a teenager, were that crowd in any way dangerous?
What kind of people was Jodie like mixed up with?
Like quite bad people.
Really?
Like, yeah, she like just kind of went in crowds. Like if she could fit in, she would just go in there. Whether they were good people or whether they were bad people, all like she knew was living on them streets.
Is it hard to talk about her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you. Were you worried about the sort of people that she was hanging around with?
Yeah, it was shocking. Everyone used to just try and bully her and it wasn't nice.
Do you think being on the streets, Jodie was vulnerable? Was she a target because of that?
Yeah, like off loads of people. Like people would pick on her and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
As a teen, Jodie seemed a kind soul others took advantage of. But could her trust in nature really have made her a target for murder? Police were about to make a shocking discovery.
The CCTV demonstrated 11 different individuals possibly converging on the place where Jodie received her fatal stab.
11?
I'm investigating the savage murder of 27-year-old Jodie Wilkinson. Stabbed to death in Newcastle city centre in October 2016. Jodie had lived on and off the streets since she was a teenager, and friends and family worried about her.
I knew she was in a bad place. She wasn't knocking about with the right people, so she was vulnerable.
Like she didn't know any different. That was her life.
Jodie's family felt her murder wasn't given the media attention it deserved.
Jodie was known in the news as a homeless person. So straight away, people are going to stereotype.
Did most of the media really steer clear of this story because of Jodie's background? I've set up a meeting with criminologist Dr. Kevin Harty.
Is it true that some victims can get more coverage than others?
Absolutely. We have what's often referred to as a hierarchy of victims. The media would look at somebody's class background, at their lifestyle, very relevant to Jodie's case. There's a history of homelessness. All of those can create a very toxic sort of environment then where they're kind of denied ideal victim status.
Really? So you think if Jodie came from a different background, there would possibly have been more media coverage at least?
Had Jodie been first-year medical student, everybody would have known who her name was. I mean, I have to hold my hands up and say that I have never heard of Jodie Wilkinson, which is quite remarkable when you consider that it was a young woman who was killed in broad daylight.
But where does that come from, Kevin? Is that got to do with unconscious bias?
Some people have all the negative stereotypes about how homeless people behave, and they may be inclined to say, well, perhaps they contributed to the aggression that led to them being victimised.
That is hard to hear.
It shouldn't matter what her background was. We should be saying that what happened to the woman was wrong.
Although the national media were overlooking Jodie's murder, the police weren't. Just an hour after the fatal attack, officers were told that men from nearby Queen's Court may have been involved. Raids and 3 arrests followed. But were these men Jodie's killers?
What happens next?
CCTV was being identified and quickly viewed, but it didn't actually identify the attack itself.
So her actual stabbing wasn't caught on camera?
No, that was off camera. The CCTV demonstrated 11 different individuals possibly converging on the place where Jodie received her fatal stab.
11? So you're saying there was a group of people involved in Jodie's attack?
That's what we were considering at that time.
So were any of the people involved identifiable on the CCTV?
The CCTV wasn't good enough quality captured at the scene that you could identify individuals from.
Why would a gang of nearly a dozen people be involved in the events leading up to Jodie's murder?
It does make me wonder, could it have been a random attack or part of something bigger?
Most UK cities have problems with gang violence, with innocent victims sometimes getting caught in the crossfire. Does Newcastle have the same issues?
Hey, Sophie.
Hey.
I'm meeting up with veteran North East crime reporter, Sophie Doughty.
Have you ever reported on a crime like this one?
I can't really think of anything similar to this, which is why it was so shocking.
Did you think at all this could have been related to gangs?
We don't have violent clashes on the streets between rival gangs. We don't really have a gang culture where people are affiliated to certain gangs and where there might be attacks and then retaliation. It's just not something that's a big issue around here.
I can't seem to work it out.
It doesn't make any sense at all about why Jodie was killed.
Sophie's knowledge of the city's criminal underbelly makes Jodie's death even more mysterious. If Newcastle is so safe, how did Jodie end up stabbed in broad daylight?
There's lots of rumours as to what's happened and why. All I got told was that she was dead and there was 10 men involved.
The majority of homicides in our force area are probably domestic related, so this was a very unique crime. The level of violence offered to Jodie is very, very rare.
Despite what some of those close to Jodie say, I keep thinking about what her friend Donna told me, that Jodie sometimes ran with a bad crowd who were involved in low-level crime. Could they have pulled her into something more dangerous? I want to find out more from Donna to talk about a period when Jodie was in supported accommodation.
Were you worried about the sort of people that she was hanging around with?
Yeah, she didn't know how to say no to people. She used to just go on with it because she thought she would lose them as friends.
You know, when you talk about like people taking advantage of Jodie, how do you mean? What sort of things did you see?
Like with her flat and stuff like that, like letting loads of people come to her flat and like take drugs and smoke weed, and she wasn't in the flat and I told them they were rang out of order for doing it. It's not their property, it's not their flat to do it.
Was she the kind of person that would have people around her all the time, like at her flat like that, in that way?
Yeah, because she was too like scared to say something.
Donna's worries about the people Jodie hung around with were shared by others. They thought she was too trusting.
I feel that because she was so kind, that made her quite a target for a lot of people. She didn't see the real dangers out there.
I've spoken with a friend of Jodie's and she's told me that from around the age of 18 to 20, drug dealers were exploiting her and using her flat to sell drugs.
I want to find out if this could have been a reality for Jodie. Dr. Michelle McManus is an expert on how vulnerable people can be snared by criminal gangs.
Michelle, from what I've heard, Jodie, when she was 18, was exploited by others.
Jodie's age, being 18, would have made her particularly vulnerable. She would have been very keen to make friends. Drug dealers are very clever at identifying and targeting vulnerable people. Those ones that may have suffered some adverse childhood experiences, saying, let's come and hang out with us and make them feel like they belong to a group. So that's kind of an issue that normally starts a cuckooing issue to occur.
Can you explain to me what cuckooing is?
So cuckooing is a form of criminal exploitation. Drug dealers that take over the home of vulnerable people tend to use it as a base to sell drugs. Doesn't necessarily have to be drug dealing. If they've got a revenge attack they want to do on a rival gang, they will say to go and carry out that attack. So actually doing violence themselves.
The thought of Jodie being caught up in this kind of exploitation is terrifying. But could the long-term consequences of such a life on the margins result in murder?
Michelle, do you feel like, from what you've seen and read up about Jodie, that this could be gang-related at all?
Yeah, I think so. They do not mind who or what they do, and that's where the threat of violence often comes in.
How is it possible that a user can get out of that situation then?
Often the individual will feel so powerless, and for people like Jodie, it becomes almost impossible for them to escape that situation.
But was Jodie the exception? For her, it seems the height of the trouble came towards the end of her teens, a full 8 years before she was killed on the street.
I want to find out if she was able to break the cycle and set herself free. Was she able to put the exploited years of her youth behind her?
I've tracked down someone who knew Jodie during her vulnerable early years. Kevin Franks worked with Jodie when she was 20 at a charity helping young people in Newcastle.
Kevin, in her teenage years, I've heard that Jodie was associated with quite dangerous people.
She was a victim of some criminal exploitation. When she came to us, she was really trying to move away from that and turn her life around. She was always on time. She always put lots of effort into it.
Can you explain to me the work that you did with Jodie? There's
a beach close to here, Whitley Bay. It was a typical bank holiday, and there was a report in the press the next day about all the rubbish that had been left on the beach, and they were blaming young people. And Jodie was like, well, it wasn't just young people, but I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll go down to the beach and we'll clean it up. And the next day, it was actually a good news story in the press, and that kind of really made Jodie feel fantastic. She was proud, and she made other young people feel proud.
And that was Jodie's idea?
Absolutely, yeah. She was definitely a driving force behind what actually became a 5-year programme of work.
Do you think at all that the people that took advantage of Jodie when she was younger could be connected to her death in any way?
I somehow doubt it, because there was a real sense that Jodie had moved on.
Jodie's extensive charity work brought her a local award for Young Achiever in 2010. It seems she really had moved on.
Nobody stayed as long or as loyal to the volunteering as Jodie did. She really respected the people that she worked with, and if she said she was doing something, she would be there.
Even though she was struggling herself, but to still try and reach out to the young people, I just admired, really.
I'm starting to build up a very conflicted image of Jodie in my head. On one hand, you have a community figure involved in numerous charities, and on the other, someone who's been mixed up with dangerous people.
Despite the police looking for a potential drugs link to the murder, they could find none. So, 24 hours on, where was the investigation at? Although the police believed up to 11 people were involved in a street disturbance just before the stabbing, only 3 were in custody.
So you've got 3 people arrested at this point. Have you managed to figure out who was involved in the attack?
We were satisfied that those 3 individuals were involved in the public order incident that led up to Jodie's death. Whether or not they were involved in the actual murder itself, that was still under investigation whilst they remained in custody.
What were they saying?
They weren't saying a great deal.
The 3 suspects were Darren Jordan, Carl Bennett and George Stewart, who all lived very close to where Jodie was killed. But their silence meant police had to spread their net wider.
A lot of our inquiries at that time were centred around trying to find any witnesses. An individual did come forward, and he claimed to have seen an individual that we named coming out of the cut and stabbing Jodie.
So he's claiming to have seen the attack?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
The witness was a local man named Michael Johnson. He claimed he saw another man, Sean Young, carry out the stabbing.
So if he is a reliable witness, you potentially identified who's done it?
Yes, exactly that.
That's massive for you.
And as a consequence of that, that individual was located and arrested very quickly.
Sean Young lived on the very street where the attack happened. Detectives now needed answers to 2 questions. What was his connection to Jodie? And why was she killed?
You just never know what it is that sparked something off.
I'm in Newcastle, investigating the murder of 27-year-old Jodie Wilkinson. In October 2016, she was stabbed after getting caught up in a huge daylight public brawl. Police have a witness who claims it was a local man, Sean Young. So, they have a potential name, but no motive.
Could the murder have been linked to what's going on in her life at that time, and has anything that she is doing, any people that she is with? Is that the reason why she's been assaulted? We have to give that some consideration.
What was going on in Jodie's life? Could there be clues to Jodie's murder from her final days? I'm meeting her friend Donna to find out more.
When was the last time that you saw Jodie?
The 11th of October. And she got killed on the 17th.
Oh my God. What happened when you saw her on the 11th?
I come off the metro monument and she started at the top of the stairs and she went, I've just got out of jail.
Jodie went to prison?
Yeah.
The news that Jodie had just come out of jail raises an obvious question. Had she made enemies before or after she went inside? Why did Jodie go to prison?
Because apparently she assaulted someone, which that isn't right. Jodie wouldn't do that.
But was she convicted? She went to prison for that assault?
Because she said that she was guilty in court. I think someone else done it and she took the blame.
Did you ever think maybe that Jodie was killed for something that happened in prison?
No.
No.
I got told people who was in prison knew Jodie in any way, so she was looked after.
She was fine in there.
Donna's right. When the police also looked into Jodie's time in jail, they found nothing that could be linked to her murder. Attention focused on the day of the killing itself and the new crowd Jodie was hanging with.
Did you know the group of people that Jodie was with that day then?
Like, I only knew one.
You knew them to a certain extent?
I knew that, like, they were, like trouble and stuff like that, but I didn't think, like, Jodie would actually be, like, a part of them.
And were you concerned at that point?
Yeah, and that's why I told her, like, obviously, to come with me. And she was like, no, I'm staying with these.
According to eyewitnesses, Jodie's group didn't start the fight. But what did happen on the street that day?
Who were Jodie's friends and who attacked them? Was it targeted or was it completely random?
Journalist Sophie Doughty spoke to some of the people Jodie was with. I'm meeting up with her again, this time at the actual crime scene.
So who was Jodie with that day?
Jodie was walking up this road in a group of 7 friends. They were friends from around Newcastle. Some of them were from the homeless community and got to know Jodie that way.
Can you talk me through what happened that day then?
Friends that I've spoken to say that someone bumped into one of Jodie's friends, Sharif Kalimba, and made a racist remark towards him. The group walked on, but 2 members of Jodie's group, Sharif and Reece Spearman, followed these people to Queen's Court.
Right.
There was a bit of a verbal argument outside the flats there, but then it all seemed to calm down.
Sophie tells me during the argument at Queen's Court, Sharif dropped some legal hires on the ground. He only realised once he rejoined Jodie and the other friends, and so then returned to the flats to retrieve them.
But then that's obviously what took them back to the scene where the fight broke out. You know, there's a bit of a chaotic melee at this point and no one really knows what's going on.
A gang of men then chased Sharif from Queen's Court back towards Jodie and her friends.
So how did Jodie get attacked then?
From what everyone said is she was pretty much on the outskirts of this, on the periphery.
One of Jodie's friends was also stabbed, but his wounds weren't life-threatening.
Why was she the target? Why would anyone want to stab Jodie specifically?
Well, friends that I've spoken to say that, you know, maybe it was a complete case of mistaken identity. Jodie had very short hair. She dressed in a bit of a tomboyish style.
Right.
So it's possible that someone thought that she was one of the lads in the group.
Oh my God. Sophie's account has given me a much clearer understanding of what happened that day, but I've still got so many unanswered questions. Was this really a case of wrong place, wrong time?
48 hours into the investigation, detectives were asking the same question. They'd arrested 3 people for their part in the fight, and witness Michael Johnson had given them Sean Young's name as the killer. It seems like the crucial breakthrough, but was it?
We were identifying that actually the account wasn't as accurate as what it should have been, and actually the witness himself wasn't in the place to see what he said he'd seen.
So what, did he lie?
Yes. So we were actually eliminating his account to such a degree that eventually got charged with attempt to pervert the course of justice.
That is shocking to think that someone who didn't even see what happened could lie about a murder.
Sean Young remained under arrest for being part of the fight, but it was clear he didn't kill Jodie. Police believed he wasn't next to her when she was stabbed. So who did murder Jodie? 2 days on, and all potential witnesses had clammed up.
It is crazy to think that a young woman was murdered in broad daylight, and there are people that didn't talk when the police came knocking.
I've attempted to contact people who were there on the day, but none are prepared to speak out.
They don't like to be a grass. If you're a grass in Newcastle, things start to happen to you, like you get terrorised and your house gets it.
And people scared to come forward because they live in that area, you know. It's not a robbery or a burglary, this is murder. You've got to stand up to that. I'm just so angry at everything. It's just total disregard for human life.
With a wall of silence around the crime scene, I need to look elsewhere. Could the nature of Jodie's wounds hold any clues? I've arranged a meeting with forensic psychiatrist Dr. Ali Ajaz.
Do Jodie's injuries tell you what happened?
So Jodie sustained quite a horrific single stab wound which went into the abdomen about 11 centimetres and was dragged across 5 centimetres, and it severed 4 different major blood vessels. Her pancreas, stomach and liver were also damaged.
Can it be that it was an accident considering how violent it was?
This going in deep and then also being dragged across, it's unlikely that this would be accidental in any way. And you do need a lot of force. So all these signs, unfortunately, look towards something that's premeditated and planned.
Given the nature of the attack and how violent the stabbing was, can that give you any indication of the profile of the killer?
So you're looking at someone who probably has a slightly larger stature. It does suggest that this was someone who's familiar with weapons and has enough force and power to discharge such violence.
Nervous about saying anything to the police. Whoever killed Jodie was clearly dangerous. But 2 days after her murder, could police discover any new crucial evidence?
Thank you so much for meeting me again, Andy. How was the investigation progressing?
So we've got 4 people in custody, and then a further witness came forward, naming a 5th person.
Another witness?
Yes, naming that person as being responsible for Jodie's death.
This new suspect was David Waterston. He was 43 and lived in Hamilton Place, just a short distance from where Jodie was stabbed. Despite finding no murder weapon at his house or any forensics linking him to the attack, police placed him under arrest. They refused to release the CCTV showing everyone's movements that day. So I'm going back to the scene to explore the police case against him.
So this is the route that Jodie would have taken up Stanhope Street? It's just crazy to think that she could have been attacked on a busy road like this, in broad daylight.
Police believe that when Jodie's friends returned to Queen's Court and the argument reignited, someone at the flats called for backup.
After the second argument, a phone call is made and 2 men from a nearby address reappear.
According to police at the time, one of those men was Waterston. CCTV showed an unidentified person coming out of his address and heading along a back alley.
Bringing him out to the exact point that Jodie was standing. And it's right here that Jodie was stabbed.
Based mainly on witness evidence, police claim David Waterston stabbed Jodie and wounded her friend. What was his version of events?
In his defence statement, he confirmed that he did actually attend the scene, but he didn't do anything there.
Despite his denials, on the 22nd of October 2016, police charged Waterston with murdering Jodie and wounding one of her friends. The 4 other men in custody were charged with violent disorder for their part in the brawl before the stabbings. But why had that fight ended in death?
Was it all of a bit of a mystery as to why they were involved or why Jodie's path and their paths had crossed?
In November 2016, as the prosecution prepared their case for a murder trial, Jodie's family said their goodbyes.
The last time I seen Jodie, she looked like she was sleeping. Like you would never have knew that she was, she was gone. She is in a better place because hopefully no one can hear her up there.
On the day of Jodie's remembrance service, 200 people came to pay their respects.
It was a very sombre affair, but it was an amazing turnout. The building was full to capacity.
There was just a lot of love for Jodie, so I wish I had been able to see that, how many people actually cared for her.
I went to the church and that's when reality kicked in and it was real.
Together, we were able to help, support and comfort one another at a very, very difficult time.
She was an inspiring individual. At a funeral, that was evident. The amount of people who actually turned out, a fitting tribute.
The local community was just so humbling. And I think she would have been amazed.
It would be almost another year before the trial began. In September 2017, 4 men admitted their part in the violent disorder. But a fifth, David Waterston, pleaded not guilty to murder. Journalist Sophie Doughty is taking me through the court transcripts.
Can you tell me what came out in trial?
The trial was really quite complicated. The CCTV didn't show the moment that Jodie was stabbed. And so this was a case that relied 100% on witnesses.
On witnesses?
A lot of what they were saying was compelling evidence. There was a 16-year-old lad who said he'd seen something shiny in David Waterston's hand, which would suggest that he had been holding the knife. The key witness, she actually said that she saw David Waterston stab Jodie.
The case seems compelling. What would the defence make of it?
You see that this isn't something that she told police straight away, and that's something that would put doubts in the mind of the jury about whether she was actually telling the truth.
Wow, that is a huge setback.
Autumn 2017. A year after Jodie Wilkinson was stabbed in a Newcastle city centre street, 43-year-old David Waterston is standing trial for her murder. Jodie's sister Amy has spent 2 weeks in the courtroom listening to harrowing evidence. But one moment stands out.
I think the worst part of the trial was listening to the 999 call. So here and I was just like, awful, you know? And I was listening to my sister asking for help. And you could tell by her voice she knew she was dying. Like, you can hear it in her voice. I think that's probably the worst for me.
27-year-old Jodie had been caught up in a mass street brawl, partly captured on CCTV. An eyewitness claims she saw the main suspect stab Jodie, but he's maintained his innocence throughout. And in court, her account was being questioned.
Andy, really good to see you again. What happened at the trial?
So our key witness gave her evidence. However, she was undermined by the fact that she didn't initially volunteer the fact that she'd seen what happened. Some of the evidence she gave was slightly undermined, like as to her exact location when she saw the offence occur.
With the key witness challenged in court, was there anything more police could do? I know there was another man stabbed at the same time as Jodie. Surely he saw who attacked them both.
What about the other guy that was stabbed? Did he give evidence?
The second victim, he never spoke to the police. He didn't tell us what had happened. And he gave evidence for the defence.
He gave evidence for the defence?
Yes, and described not being aware of who was responsible for the assault, but did say who was closest to him, and he didn't name the defendant, he named somebody else. And that obviously would have undermined our case in the eyes of the jury.
It's a blow for the police case that the surviving victim of the attack could not identify who stabbed them or Jodie. But what did David Waterston say when his day in court came?
The defendant himself never gave evidence, so he never accounted for his movements. And as a consequence, so the jury never got his explanation as to what happened.
This is entirely a defendant's right. It's always up to the prosecution to prove their case.
Do you think you had a strong case?
You're optimistic because you're in the hands of 12 members of the jury, and you hope that your case has fallen well for them, but you just don't know what they're saying behind the four walls of the jury room.
The jury's debate lasted time to reflect on the fortnight-long trial.
I thought, you know, have they got the right man? And I was dying for him to look over, but he didn't. It was like he just picked a spot in a wall and he was just staring at that spot the whole time.
On September 27th, 2017, 11 months after Jodie was killed, the jury returned.
What was the verdict?
It was a not guilty for...
It was not guilty?
That's correct, yes.
So after all that, all those witnesses, nobody's been convicted for Jodie's murder?
Yeah.
How did you feel, Andy, when you heard that verdict?
I was devastated. It's a real blow for the family. Getting a conviction at court is often the first part of the grieving process to return it to normality.
My heart really does go out to all the people that were close to Jodie, her sister and her friends. It's really upsetting to hear.
When we got a not guilty verdict, I got out of there, like I had to leave the room. I couldn't believe it.
I still haven't got over it. I can't stop myself from grieving, if you know what I mean.
It's the only case I ever lost at Crown Court where the defendant left the room and went home.
It's also a case which, like the crime itself, never received wide national publicity, even though a murderer remains on the loose.
It is an unsolved murder. We'd always encourage members of the public to come forward with any information that could lead to the successful prosecution of the individual involved.
I will get the truth. Like I say, the truth will come out in the end. It will come out. It always does.
Every year I try and ask people to come forward and so we can get some justice for Jodie, you know, so she can rest in peace. That's all I want her to do, is to rest in peace. And I feel like that's my job, and I need to do that for her.
5 years after Jodie's death and her unidentified killer is still free. And I can't help but think there would be a bigger public outcry and more effort to close the case if the media had given it the attention that it deserved.
Wider publicity would have caused more awareness and maybe more witnesses coming forward. I'm speaking to Dr. Kevin Harty to get his take on Jodie's case.
So Kevin, what needs to change then? How do we change as a society?
I think the way the change is to just look at a victim as a victim. I mean, a young woman lost their life. Does it really matter whether they're an innocent victim? Had this been a middle-class teacher, it would have been all over the media. There would have been a societal pressure, political pressure that would have shed a light and could well have produced a different outcome.
4 years have passed since the trial, and no new evidence has come to light. But Jodie is still in everyone's minds.
Now, when you go to town and you think you're going to see her, but you don't. It just feels like a part of her is not there anymore.
I hope wherever she is, she doesn't think that I forgot about that, because I haven't. And I'll, you know, one day when we may get justice for Jodie.
Her achievements in the face of personal struggles live on.
She has improved, without doubt, many, many services for young people and vulnerable people in the city.
She genuinely and really wanted to make a change for herself and for other people.
Should we sit on this bench here?
Yeah.
I'm meeting up with Amy to find out how she wants to get justice for Jodie.
In terms of her trial, do you want people to come forward with any more information or any new information?
If it was Jodie, she would stand up and she would tell the truth about what happened that day. If anyone's watching this and they know anything about it, I just beg, like, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, come forward. Because this is a girl's life, you know, and she needs justice.
Amy, it's been such a privilege to be able to spend time with you, and I really do pray that you get the justice that she deserves. I really do.
And thanks very much for telling Jodie's story.
Sadly, Jodie didn't fit the profile of the ideal victim. And outside of the northeast of England, her death's in danger of being forgotten. But we owe it to her, a woman who fought so hard to turn her fortunes around, to keep her memory alive.
If you've been affected by any of the issues mentioned in this programme, please head to our helpline page.